No authority.
Because in the absence of any official anybody, you get to start it, Brennan. Well, enjoy it.
That's how it works.
He's the guy.
How it works, yeah.
Don't get a gavel like Peter did, but
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, good evening and welcome to this special organizational meeting of the Norwich Selectboard. The date is March 6th, 2024. My name is Brennan Duffy, the town manager. Prior to election of the chair, I serve as temporary chair of the Select Board. I am joined by board members Roger Arnold, Marcia Calloway.
Roger's not here.
Roger via Zoom is here remotely. In the room, we have Marcia Calloway, Mary Layton, Pam Smith, and Priscilla Vincent. This meeting is being held in the Tracy Hall meeting room and via Zoom with Jam broadcasting on YouTube. The agenda and packet materials were distributed via the Norwich listserv, and they are also available on the town website under Select Board tab. I monitor admissions to our Zoom platform. We request that members of the public display their full name for admission, which has helped us eliminate so-called Zoom bombing interruptions in our meetings. If anyone is having difficulty getting into the meeting, please feel free to contact the Select Board member now and let us know. Everyone attending or participating in a meeting must focus their remarks, wait their turn to speak after being recognized by the chair, then speak clearly and loudly so that everyone can hear what is being said. People here in Tracy Hall should leave the room if they wish to speak with one another. For remote public questions or comments through Zoom, please raise your electronic hand to be recognized by the chair before speaking. For questions or comments through the telephone, press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute after being recognized by the chair. We will monitor the Zoom view to acknowledge participants who wish to speak, and we will reach everyone who wants to comment. Please do direct comments or questions to the chair, not to other people either on the board or in the remote audience. The order of speaking will generally be Select Board members, then members of the public here in the building, and then people participating remotely through Zoom.
Yes, can you?
We have a pop-up here. Hi, Roger. Okay, so that is the conclusion of the normal statement before the meeting. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda, which we should take care of now, as the agenda is actually the third point on our agenda? Does that make sense?
We need to, we can't.
We're not going to approve it, but we have to, if there are any additions or deletions, we would need to make them now before we go further.
Good to me.
Looks okay. Okay. So with that, the first item on the agenda is election of chair. I will call on Mary. I think she was first.
I move to elect Marcia Calloway as chair of the Norwich Selectboard.
Okay. We don't need a second.
You don't need a second?
Not as of what we did last year.
Robert's rules don't require a second for nominations at the organization meeting.
Okay. All right.
So do we have any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Pam Smith as chair.
Okay. We don't need a second for that either, I don't believe. So I guess we will start with Marcia as the first nominee. All in favor of Marcia Calloway as chair for the board?
You have to do this as a roll call?
We probably should, because Roger is remote. Yeah. So Roger?
Isn't there usually an opportunity for discussion?
I've only done this once before, so I don't have any past history of that.
Would you allow opportunity for discussion?
I think that would be fine. Sure.
Sure. So the only thing I guess what I was really curious that what I wanted to put out there was sort of two things. I think it's really important to maintain continuity, and I think a chair should really serve in more than 1 year in order to develop meaningful relationships with staff, to develop a public-facing rapport at meetings with the community and board members. I think that continuity is really important. That being said, one of the things I realized when I sought that continuity was people, for lots of different reasons, board members don't have the individualized relationships that they need to with town management in order for the town to be successful. I'm sure any chair can tell you that they see the town manager and the work of the town manager's office in a completely new light when they're in that role. And so I think it is important for people to more people to see that and foster meaningful relationships with that office so we can maintain someone in that office. So I guess the 2 points that I would make: continuity is great for lots of reasons, but also a lot of people should develop good relationships with the town manager. And for whatever reason, it seems like the chair always develops the best relationship. And so that might be reason for other people to be in the chair role. So you might have noticed that I was offering 2 different contradictory opinions, but nonetheless, I think we should consider that. And I'm curious what other people think.
Recognize me. Okay. Thank you, Roger. I don't see them as necessarily contradictory. I think those are 2 excellent points to keep in mind. And Marcia, you've done an incredible job as chair. You just really kind of feel sort of turned the board around and made it civil and respectful. And I don't know, there's been a sense of harmony. Or, well, it's not harmony. I mean, we don't all see eye to eye. Nobody would want us to see eye to eye. But I think respectful consideration of a variety of ideas. I hope I'm not saying a turn. I think you're burned out. And out of personal concern for you, I think it would be a good idea for you to let somebody else take on that huge burden, which it has been. I also think that Pam would be a terrific chair. She's willing to do a lot more work than I am. You're willing to do the work. She's willing to do a lot of work. She brings slightly different perspective. And considering that we are the same board that we were a year ago, I think a little shift in perspective would be a useful thing.
Well, I don't feel burnt out, but
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
All right.
I was glad that Roger brought up the 2 themes of continuity, but also, that the chair does hear more and also more timely information that comes in and has to be dealt with, and it almost flies by the time you've got all the select board members gathered for a meeting. And to the extent that there can be, communication between the town manager and the other select board members, it's great. I think it's not always really possible because of the rush of events. I just think that in the terms of the balance, that I would like to continue with Marcia's leadership. I like that she's kind of reminding us of the statutes, reminding us of just decisions that have been made in the town where sometimes there are unintended consequences or there's housekeeping that doesn't get done. I think she's kind of going thoroughly through all of that. And I do like the tone. We had, a very tough time with COVID and our DPW people leaving and so forth. And I think she's led has been very gracious. And I think that's been a wonderful, just a wonderful thing for the town. And I don't think she's burned out. So I'll put in my plug for Marcia.
Okay. I will comment as the town manager, if I may. I will say Marcia is solely responsible for me being here today in this role. She was one of the driving forces in convincing me I should take this interim position back in December 2022. And when I had an opportunity to make another change here this fall, she was one of the driving forces in me wanting to stay here in Norwich. So I have appreciated all of her hard work, her sage advice, and her willingness to do anything and everything to support the work of the town, the work of the town manager's office. I truly hope that Marcia Calloway is reelected as the chair of this board.
Thank you.
So are there any other comments? All right, that said, I guess Marcia is the first nominee. All in favor of Marcia Callaway for chair?
Are you doing a roll call?
Yeah, roll call. Roger.
I'm gonna vote no.
Okay. Marcia?
Yes?
Mary?
Yes.
Pam?
No?
Priscilla?
No.
Okay. All in favor of Pam Smith for chair? Roger?
Sure. Yes.
Sure. Marcia?
No?
Mary?
No.
Pam?
Yes?
Priscilla?
Yes.
Okay, I think Pam Smith has been nominated and been voted the new chair of the Norwich Selectboard.
Thank you. Okay, well, then I guess we move on to number 2, election of the vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? And Marcia?
I nominate Mary.
Okay, anyone else? Then I'd like to make a nomination. I'd like to nominate Priscilla. Is there any discussion? Marcia?
Yeah, I don't think the two of you have enough experience yet. So I think it wouldn't be a good idea, but
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any comments?
Yeah, I just have a question.
Sure.
I know, Pam, that you like to get to the bottom of things.
Mhm.
You like to thoroughly explore and, get down to the details. And I'm just wondering if that will kind of be too much in terms of that, we have projects to move forward and we have policies to make and so forth. I'm just wondering about a balancing effort, and I'm wondering how, and it's probably a question for Priscilla too, like the two of you, let's say that, you're the kind of the team. How will you balance that out?
In what way?
Well, just that, are we going to move forward as town on initiatives like our Tracy Hall renovations, our affordable housing, getting the personnel policies written and things like that? Like, like Pam, how would you do it? And Priscilla, how would you support her?
Well, I'll answer for myself. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we moved back to the area in 2015. So I went back 9 years in the minutes and took copious notes of various things that have happened with the previous select boards. And I started making notes of things that are supposed to happen at certain times of the year. Every March, you have your organizational meetings. You do committee appointments, things of that nature. I also was looking for things like, what are the projects that have been mentioned that keep getting mentioned but don't get done, like personnel policies, review of different policies. And I have a lot of notes that I've taken over the last 9 years of minutes. And I think I have a pretty good plan of how to keep us moving forward and the things that have slipped through the cracks that we now need to get back on our agenda.
Right.
And to some degree, I felt like we've been playing whack-a-mole, and it's because there's been a lot of things that have come along that were unforeseen. But we also have to make sure that those things that are either done by statute at a particular time or done by tradition at a particular time make it onto the agenda. And so for that reason, I think I am ready for this role.
And you'd be ready to prioritize.
Absolutely.
Can I say something, Pam?
Sure, go ahead.
So your chair in my mind, because the hope is that you would develop new empathies for town manager form of government, the pressures and pressures and challenges that come through that office. I don't believe that was always seen. I believe I value Marcia much more as a colleague since she has been chair, because it's my belief, I don't know if it's true, just my belief, that she really gets it now. So I hope that you in your role will really get it. And then I hope that we can model all of us really just getting it, right? So we can be more effective as a group. So I think my suggestion, I guess, might be, Marcia, how would you might feel being in a vice chair role? Would that be incredibly difficult, given that you're coming off of, being highly successful in a chair role? That might be a question to pose, Pam, if I may.
Also to Marcia.
Marcia and Priscilla have been nominated. So Mary and Priscilla have been nominated. So I think that we're not really considering Marcia for the vice chair position at this time because she hasn't been nominated.
How about I nominate her? How's that then?
Okay.
And let's ask my question.
All right. You may do that, certainly.
Are you asking me?
Yes. So what as I said, what I hope is not a thought experiment, but actually something that could work, is that by people being in this role, they understand the challenges, the challenges of the town manager office, and foster more meaningful collaborative relationships. So we can so we can have retention, and so we can, be more successful as a community. So, but I don't. So I was wondering if Marcia and vice chair would be helpful for that formula, if that were possible. If not, then of course I support Mary for the reasons that Marcia said about experience.
Yeah. Can I answer?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah. I don't think it would be effective at all because I don't think Pam listens very well. So I wouldn't be useful.
I'm sorry, you think I'm not open-minded. Mary?
I'm wondering if Pam brought her business experience and her research skills and kind of kept the structure going nicely on track, and then Priscilla with her empathy. So I think there's a very positive projection of empathy for the citizens that Priscilla projects. That might be an effective team to have Pam and Priscilla. And I'm just kind of processing how, if we thought of ourselves as a team, what would it be like? And I think one thing about this election in the past few months is that people, I think, have not been feeling like they're heard, even though we're, I think scrambling, like the whack-a-mole analogy, is not far off, but, dealing with all these massive funds and what are the decisions and, do we have the staff to do everything? Meanwhile, the public is, I think, thinking, well, we can't get our pedestrian paths. Like every time we come up with an idea, it's like they've already decided what to do. And I do think Priscilla at least projects empathy, which I think the town might appreciate. I do think it will be a learning curve, but it always is, depending on who shows up. You learn what you need to learn. So, I don't know. I think I'm not going to unnominate myself, but I'm trying to process how this could work,
If you may, go ahead, Priscilla, and then I'll say what I need to say.
Thank you. But I am not in any disagreement with the priorities of the board that we had, last week, or, all the things that we've considered important are still very important. And I would hope that Pam would continue to shepherd them through.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't think she wouldn't. I'm trying to process how our teamwork would work. And I know that Pam really likes to get down to all the details of this, but it sounds like she would map out, really try to map out a structure so that we could get through the year efficiently. I think that would be great if we could do that. But I think that efficiency might be very nicely supported by your image, Priscilla, as an empathetic person, a person from the community that still has that touch with the citizens.
I walk around town all the time.
You walk around town all the time, and you have maybe a little more time to talk to people.
Mhm.
So it's silly to vote against myself because I think I do have a lot to contribute, but also I kind of want to veer off. Like I'm very interested in the affordable housing and the Tracy Hall and personnel, those three issues. So maybe backing out of the vice chair role would be good for me. And I would focus more on narrower issues or particular issues, So, yeah, sounds silly, but I would support the team over here.
One of the things that I learned in my 9-year research of the minutes was that it appeared to be a tradition that each year when a vice chair was nominated and elected, it was one of the new people on the board.
Oh, that's a pattern that you noticed?
That is a pattern that I picked up on. And I was just it didn't dawn on me at first, but as I started reading these minutes, and I started thinking, wait a minute, it's always a new person. And it was kind of a rotation. You served as the vice chair and that for a year or two, and then you moved up to the chair role. And so last year, we didn't do that. And I hadn't familiarized myself with what had been sort of traditional. So, we had Marcia continue as the chair last March after serving from the previous October, and then you continued on in the vice chair role. So one of the reasons that I felt that it was important to nominate Priscilla because she is one of the new members, and I would like to get back to that tradition of bringing a new person into that role. So is there any other discussion, or shall we call the question?
We have 3 questions.
Oh, I see Nan Carroll has her hand up. Nan, would you like to speak?
Thank you. Could somebody describe what the role of the vice chair is? It may seem obvious, but it's not to me.
Well, I know one of the obvious reasons is that if the chair is not available to lead the meeting, then the vice chair would certainly step up and do that. If there are other duties that Mary has performed, maybe she could help us understand what she's done as the vice chair.
I think it's almost a backup position in the meetings, like keeping track of the motions, maybe a little advanced planning for the agenda, do that together with the chair to try to, get everybody's ideas organized. But just to run the meetings is a bit, I don't call it theatrical, but you get caught up in trying to balance what, the amount of time everybody has, whether you've asked pose the questions correctly, what are the reactions. So it's useful to have a person who is keeping the motion sheet and keeping just noticing everything is on track in the meeting.
Okay.
And being a sounding board. That's kind of the way I've done it. That's what I like about it, is just kind of being a little more reflective and being a sounding board and being a backup. So that's how I see it. And Roger can speak to this too, of course.
So the only thing the only thing in statute that the chair does is supposed to run the meeting, as far as I understand it, and the vice chair does so in the chair's absence. But I would say, one of the most wonderful things, I think a real hallmark of leadership that Claudette did when she was chair is I think there were 1 or 2 occasions where she's like, "Can you do this?" And I ran a meeting as the vice chair. I also helped plan the agenda because my working schedule was more flexible than Claudette's was at the time. And so I always thought of everything as a relationship, as a good working set of relationships. I think it helped board meetings, and I think it helped the board. It didn't retain a professional. right? That was when we had Herb Durfee. It wasn't successful in retaining him, and any productive chair and vice chair relationship wasn't successful for retaining Rod Francis. So I still think that good relationships are at the heart of this. So if there was a meaningful relationship that could be worked out between a chair and a vice chair, particularly one who's more experienced, then I think it's helpful for everyone. But that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Barry?
There's also the relationship with the town manager. So that's got to be solid. There's so much that needs to be shared, and kept track of. And he is our employee.
Right.
So, he has to be treated fairly and just supported in what he does. I'm saying he's over here. So, as Brennan was saying, Marcia's kind of fostered his introduction into the town of Norwich. But also, if he's going to stay for many years, there will be, new boards. So
Right.
that's, it's almost like, can we do this tradition gracefully in the
Right.
town?
And hopefully Brennan is, aware that there are going to be changes and that, there are going to be different people he has to work with. And so that's just part of the job.
Right. Yeah.
And I look forward to learning more about what Brennan does and how things work on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
All right, is there any other discussion before we vote?
So
Yes, go ahead, Roger.
I was Brennan wanting to speak. I'm sorry.
Did you have your hand up, Brennan?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So do you want to take a motion for one person? Do you want me to make a
Well,
motion?
we have someone in the audience who would like to speak.
Oh,
So,
okay.
All right, Will, would you like to come up and speak?
I'd like to just point out that Pam has 15 years of building a business from scratch, management, hiring, policy, accounting. So she will have no problem managing the chair position and the select board. Guaranteed.
Thank you. Well, Roger, we have three nominations on the table. We have one for Mary, one for Priscilla, and one for Marcia. And so,
No, I declined.
you declined?
And I should, yes, I was
Oh,
going to say I
okay.
withdraw because
Right.
Marcia answered.
All right. All right, so I guess since Mary was the first nomination, I'll call the question. All in favor of having Mary as the vice chair? Roger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Priscilla?
I have a coin to get to.
And I'm a no. All right,
What was Priscilla's? No. Okay. That's so interesting.
all right. Well, then I guess there's no need to carry on. We have three yeses. And so Mary is now the vice chair.
Pam, I promise to be nice.
And likewise, I look forward to working with you.
Okay.
Do we now have to do the motion? I don't know.
Okay.
How does this work with the motions?
I guess we write in who was actually elected. That would be, and at this point, we don't really have anyone taking the minutes. So I guess at this point, I will do the minutes for this meeting, but I will not be doing minutes in future. So we'll need to resolve that.
Maybe that could be just a point where perhaps when we get to our rules of procedure, we could think of something.
Okay, we can do that. All right, so number 3 on the agenda is the agenda review. Does anyone have any comments or questions about the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
You do a roll call?
Roger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, number 4, selection of the official town newspaper. Do we have a motion?
I move to select the Valley News as the official town newspaper.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, any comments or questions?
Not a lot of alternatives.
This is true. Roger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, unanimous. Okay, number 5. Set the select board regular meeting schedule, time and participation. Okay, I guess we should start with a motion. Would someone like to make a motion?
I have a comment first, please.
Certainly.
Just that we should consider some date changes in November and December as part of.
Right, we have done that in the past.
Right, and I've written down what they are.
Okay,
Um,
do you want to incorporate those in your motion?
I'll try to do that. Let's see. I move to set the regular meeting schedule for the Norwich Selectboard for the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. Except for the November meeting, I guess it would be change 11/28 to 11/27. So that would put the meeting on a Tuesday of Thanksgiving week.
Okay,
And in December we really should look at because Christmas is on the Wednesday.
No.
And then New Year's is on the Wednesday. So
so would we
figure it
make
out.
our last meeting the 18th
See,
instead of the 25th?
you know, let's take a look. Okay, so that would put back-to-back meetings. I guess we don't, it would be the
Well,
11th and the 18th, right?
We've done that before, let's see.
Okay.
But if we're doing November 27, yeah, it would only be, 2 weeks to the 11th?
Thanksgiving. It's budget season.
Or,
Well, we're talking about December, I think.
I thought
Oh, did I
so,
get that?
so if we're meeting the 11th and then again on
Is this
the,
correct?
you said the 27th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
26th.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Pam, we need to back up.
oh, no, yeah, you're right. It's
20
Tuesday, the 26th.
26.
Oh, so it's moving 27 to
Sorry.
26,
Thank you
all
for
right.
checking that, Marcia.
And then in December, I guess, we're going to be in budget season and we typically meet weekly anyway.
That's true.
So I guess we would do December 18 instead of the 25th.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the January,
And then January would be,
so that wouldn't matter.
The
because it's
11th.
The second.
Yeah.
So January is okay.
yep,
Back on track with this. Okay. So we have the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month, except in November to, the second meeting would be on Tuesday, the 26th. And in December, the second meeting would be December 18th.
okay,
With, continue with the motion, with in-person attendance of all board members unless the meeting is warned as remote only. Oh, now that's, I don't know if I agree with this. Let's see. Let's see.
I'm wondering if we even need that wording, because if a situation arises, we just announce it in advance.
Because we do plan to continue with hybrid meetings, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I find that helpful because I have a caregiving role, and Roger does to some extent too, I believe. Okay, so we take that.
So we're meeting the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month at 6:30, except for the November 26th and December 18 as our second meeting,
Mhm.
with in-person attendance of all board members, unless the meeting is warned as remote only, period.
No,
No.
we can't have we're not in person attendance right now because it doesn't always work out.
In person
But
or
there-
on Zoom?
Or
Okay, well, we're going to be doing hybrid right along,
it doesn't say about that here.
right? With hybrid meetings, unless warned as remote only.
Yes, that makes sense, I think. I think that reflects what we've been actually doing. Hybrid meetings.
Hybrid attendance of all board members unless the meeting is warned as remote only.
And what about notifying the chair of, if you can't attend?
I think
That's
that's just a housekeeping thing, a courtesy. I don't think it needs to be an emotion unless others feel strongly about it.
I would not. I think it's a courtesy, but people are either courteous or not, so.
Okay, do you want to read it again, just so that it's clear for anyone who's listening?
Yeah, I'll see if I can do this. I move to set the regular meeting schedule for the Norwich Selectboard for the second and fourth Wednesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. Except in November, the second meeting will be on November 26th, and December, the second meeting will be on December 18th. With members attending in a hybrid meeting format, unless the meeting is warned as remote only.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, there's no further discussion. I'll call for the question. Roger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yeah.
And I'm a yes, unanimous. Okay, number 6, authorize the chair and or the vice chair to sign payroll warrants.
I move to authorize the chair and or the vice chair to sign payroll warrants.
We have a second?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, any discussion?
Yes, we're already doing this anyway, aren't we? I mean, hasn't this been our past practice this past year?
Right.
So we're just setting it up again.
Yeah,
This
for
year.
setting,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
authorizing.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the payrolls don't always fall
Right.
like the payroll warrant, I mean, accounts payable warrants. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I'll call a question. Roger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, number 7, authorize the chair and or vice chair to sign AP warrants off cycle.
I move to authorize the chair and or the vice chair to sign AP warrants off cycle.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Cheryl Lindbergh.
Hi, yes. Does your motion include the procedure of incorporating those warrants in the next select board packet?
Actually, it does not. Perhaps we should have a friendly amendment to include that wording.
I would agree to that. So it would be to include copies.
We'll include those warrants in the next packet.
Those warrants. in packet. Like, yes, I accept
Okay.
that.
All right, and Priscilla?
Good idea. Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you, Cheryl. All right, any other further discussion or questions? All right, I'll call the question. Roger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, number 8, adopt procedure for receipt of correspondence, which was in our packet. Do we want to discuss this before we entertain a motion, or do you want to do a motion first? And I guess I'm asking that because I don't know if everyone is in agreement with just continuing with this policy, or if we would like to discuss some potential changes.
I have one minor question.
Okay, go ahead.
It says that correspondence basically should be sent to the select board's email address, and my impression was that didn't always work well this past year.
I'm not in favor of using that address, and I haven't been for years.
So I wonder if we should change that in our policy.
If we go to Miranda,
Right, and I'm not sure we need a gatekeeper for our emails. I'd like to see either a distribution list come out of this, like we have done in the past in the lister's office. You write to listers, but it goes to, instead of it going to one email, it goes to all three listers. Or we could just list all five email addresses there, and people can pick and choose who they'd like to correspond with, all of us or some of us. So I would be in favor of that change.
I think, I don't like the idea of people picking and choosing. I mean, I think if they're going to address the select board, they should address the select board. I'm very happy to have it sent to each of our individual emails, because I think that's the fastest way to get the correspondence to us. But
So you like the distribution list in the background? So that
well, I
we
don't
can say-
care how. I mean, we've gotten a lot of correspondence that is sent to either Brennan or Miranda or both, and then each of the five of us listed too.
Right, but if you put the individual email addresses, people will, if they only want to correspond with me or you or somebody else, then they'll use that email address. If you use select board, but you have a distribution list in the background, then it goes to all of us at the same time. And there's no gatekeeper who decides what we see and what we don't.
I'm not sure people have been aware of this select board in Norwich, Vermont, US.
Well, it's on the website. Mary?
I'm not sure the gatekeeper function, like who is the gatekeeper? I'm also not really aware of who this goes to if it says select board.
It's my understanding it goes to Miranda. Am I correct, Brother?
This is Miranda.
Yeah, and I like the idea of it going to Miranda. I don't want her to leave any correspondence out, and I would assume that, is that what you meant by gatekeeping?
Yes.
Okay, so under what circumstance would she leave something out, like something that was kind of the equivalent of Zoom bombing or what?
Well, I know that I've sent correspondence in the past when I was not a select board member to that address, and no select board member ever saw it. So that's my inclination to believe that we don't see everything. Roger made a comment last year when we discussed this that he didn't want to see all of these emails. And my question is, how many are there? How many are there? I don't know the answer. Is it, 1 a month? Is it 10 a month? Is it 100 a month? I don't know. But on occasion, Miranda has forwarded things to us, but I don't know if that's everything.
I don't think that's true. I think all correspondence that goes to that email address goes into the packet, and that is what we vote to receive. I don't want people I want to receive correspondence in that way. When people write to us and don't write to the select board address, it doesn't get entered as official correspondence. And I like that a lot less for a lot of different reasons. So I think the policy is fine as written.
Marcia?
I also think it should go to one place, and I trust that Miranda puts it in the packet. And I think that if you start having individuals receiving it, then you end up with almost 5 agendas and people answering potentially on behalf of the select board. I think it would be kind of chaotic.
Okay. Mary?
I agree with Marcia's points.
All right. And I see some value to that point of view. I can't say I've ever recalled seeing anything in the packet that said to selectboard@norwich.vt.us, but I could be wrong. So if there's no more discussion,
I do have one.
Sure.
Just we've been trying to not ignore correspondence, and I think that was the reason for the bullet points.
Right,
Where we have and I think that's a good triage.
right.
Except that sometimes I think, and I always think every letter to me is valuable, just to put it in the back of my mind and know the context and know people's concerns. Sometimes I get a little, it's like I'd like to pull a letter out because we're finally at the agenda item, that kind of thing. It can, like, some really good piece can come in, but then it's like not something that we would, deal with for a month. Does that make any sense? I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You're saying that sometimes we pull correspondence and we can't really deal with it because it's not on the agenda.
Right.
So then we say, well, it should be a future agenda item, but,
Get lost.
maybe the thing to do, though, is when we're setting the agenda, if we know there's something in correspondence that we would like to pull, we could mention at that point and say, I'd like to pull that and add it to this agenda.
Right. And I think we've done that before in the past. We've
Okay.
just pulled relevant. But I do like this. I do like this sorting.
Okay.
arrangement.
And in the past, there hasn't been much conversation, and Marcia was very good about itemizing each
Yes.
one and giving
Giving
some
a
kind of
synopsis.
and giving a small response.
And recognition of each piece. That was
Right.
very good.
Yeah, Marcia, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, and just remember, you can't get to the correspondence and then change the agenda.
Right. So that's why I was saying, if we do it in agenda review, if somebody knows there's something in the correspondence that they want to pull and deal with that night, then we have to do it at that point.
Right.
Okay. Priscilla, did you have something you wanted to add? Okay. All right. If we don't have any further discussion, shall we make a motion?
I move to adopt the receipt of correspondence as stated. Or as presented.
Okay.
As presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Roger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yep.
Yes. All right, thank you. Okay, next we have adopting the rules of procedure, and that too was in our packet. Any discussion on that before we make a motion? Priscilla?
I just noticed, it says a printed copy of the statute will be compiled and located in the physical meeting room for each select board meeting.
The statute or this procedure? I think it used to be posted in there.
So last year, what we did was we changed this. And because people wanted to question a lot, we listed these and then we said that there would be a printed copy here. So I'm using my voice. So that's where that came from.
Did we do a printed
that?
copy?
I don't remember if we did, and I don't remember if it's here.
Okay, I don't see anything in here at the moment. Is this something that we want to continue with and maybe get them posted in this room?
This was a recommendation by John Carroll and everybody last year thought it was a good idea.
Oh.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that when we adopt something, we actually follow through on it. So if we adopt this, then we need to make sure that these statutes are actually posted here in this room.
Could there be a link instead? The Vermont statutes online?
Well, how would you do that?
Just put a live link in this document and post this document?
So those citations are there, so anybody can plug that into it.
Well, you could just Google it, right?
Right. So then we would change the wording to reflect that there's just follow the links that are.
It's not a link, it's a citation. And if you put that into a Google or something, it'll come up. But if you try and put in a link to a particular server for it, it might not be
It might not go to what you want.
Okay. All right, so how would we change this wording then to just tell people that the relevant statutes are listed below?
You wouldn't because it says it already.
But we say a printed copy of these statutes will be compiled and located in the physical meeting room. I think we have to take that
Take that
out.
out then.
Or you can do it.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Take a
I
push
don't know.
minute.
I
go on
think,
that wall.
yeah, maybe it makes sense to post it because we sort of want to have a physical presence and an online.
I always brought them with me, and so they were here all the time.
Okay, all right.
So I'm fond of
Would
it.
you volunteer to then get those posted in the meeting room for us?
No,
Okay, all right, then,
Do we need a copy for each person who's interested? Is that what we're talking about here?
I don't think
I
so.
think the intent last year was to have them available,
So to have copies available.
right?
A printed copy, that's one.
I think it's too much. It's such awful. I think it's too
I
much.
think we stop it cited below.
Yeah.
And we just don't put them in the meeting room. So if everyone is in agreement with that, I would
I would strike that as well.
say that we need to put that in the motion to strike that last sentence there. Anything else that would amend this policy?
And this, I don't think has ever been in our rules and procedure, but I've always been very concerned with our town managers with interruptions, and mainly from the public who come in and say, well, there's a tire in the middle of the road, can you do something about it? You know, where's the restaurant? And I think a lot of that has shifted with, you know, just shifting Brennan's office across the way. But if we could somehow have some statement about helping our town manager to work efficiently so that we're not, let's say, micromanaging. And this may be impossible to define. But I just want to make sure that he's got the guidance to really use his time effectively. From us. Maybe that's not the proper place for it. but-
Yeah, I'm not sure that how we would work that into this document, but certainly I agree with you. We should be respectful of his time and, no, if
Maybe that
he doesn't want to be disturbed, he can always put a do not disturb
Yeah,
sign
that's
on his door and so that he
And then
can
we knock on
concentrate.
Miranda's.
We should be going to Miranda first anyway.
Yeah.
Let's look at careful look at agendas too, just to make sure.
Are people still talking?
We're reading. I'm looking at number 3. All business shall be conducted in the same order as it appears on the noticed agenda, except that any addition or deletion from the noticed agenda must be made as the first act of business at the meeting. No additions or deletions from the agenda shall be considered once the first act of business at the meeting has commenced. Any other adjustment to the noticed agenda, for example, changing the order of business, postponing or tabling actions or agenda items may be made by a majority vote of the body. Okay, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Yep,
we've done that.
Yes, we have. I just want to make sure that we were,
no, it's going to review it, yeah.
that we could,
That's from statute verbatim.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
We're gonna keep it then.
Yep. Okay. Right, anything else?
On the, I don't know if this is worth it, but on the meetings where it says regular meetings shall take place in the second and fourth Wednesdays, like our adjustments in December, would that make them special meetings?
They are actually special
They
meetings.
are, okay, so that takes care of that.
Yep.
Let's look at the electronic and other means.
It's number 4 under meetings.
Now, I have to ask this because I'm not always here. If the quorum or more of a body attend a meeting, regular, special, or emergency, without being physically present at a designated meeting location, the agenda for the meeting shall designate at least one physical location where a member of the public can attend. So when we have had we call it remote only, right? We've had those. Yeah. They would not have this physical location, correct?
Those are typically special meetings though, aren't they?
Well,
Where we've had a single item to deal with, whether it's a contract issue or whatever, and we just say, no.
But doesn't it define in the first sentence, a member of the body may attend a regular, special, or emergency? So that,
Right, but
it sounds like there would be access.
But it wasn't by electronic or other means. So you could zoom in.
But it says the agenda for the meeting shall designate at least one physical location where a member of the public can attend and participate in the meeting, except where active law otherwise allows. And there are times that we need to conduct business and there's inclement weather that might not allow us to travel safely. And there are other times when it's just a single item and there's no need for all of us to pile into Tracy Hall or even one of us to
Or for Jan to have to come and set up.
right. Usually we do that though by just recording the Zoom meeting.
Is that flexibility reflected here or not? Can't quite tell me.
Not really.
Marcia, do you have thoughts on that?
Which, I'm sorry.
Number 4 under meetings.
The last part says the agenda for the meeting shall designate at least one physical location where a member of the public can attend and participate in the meeting, except where active law otherwise allows.
Yeah, I believe that came from the COVID stuff.
So how would we manage a remote only meeting under that policy?
In some well, you should know this, but in some respects, the law trumps, right? So the statutes were changed, or the guidance that came from the governor was changed. And I sent that out to everybody not so long ago. And so that would trump this. So you can try and rework it if you want to, but you're going to be guessing about what's happening with COVID, with the state.
Could we change the word shall to may?
Shall sounds pretty definitive.
It does. And may gives us some flexibility.
I think this policy is speaking to when we were required to hold in-person meetings, but nobody wanted to. So effectively, people's memories are sieves, but you remember that I was here usually with Rod while everyone was online, right? So that statement speaks to that behavior. Remote, you can warn a remote only meeting now, or you do it in person or hybrid. There isn't this new need for everyone be online and one person be designated in the public place, because so you can just take it out, or you could just defer to Marcia's advice, which is, the law is the law, and this is a policy. It's not like a policy, like a financial policy or a personnel policy. This is for us,
Okay.
So we could take it out and be within the law. I just find it confusing. If we remove this, Marcia, maybe you're the go-to here. If we remove that sentence, would we still be operating within the law? Or do we still have to provide that physical location for people?
That's changed a couple of times in the last COVID event.
But wasn't it an emergency? I mean, wasn't it part of that special COVID legislation?
Yeah, but it lasted a long
Governor's
time.
order?
That's right. And then it lasted a long time and then they changed it.
But I think you're allowed remote only meetings now,
Yes,
right? I think at the time it was you could be remote, but one person there was like someone who had to be there. So I don't really know where
It's
we
an
are.
artifact then, right?
That goes back to the first days of COVID when we were still trying to find our way, right? When we had to figure out
What to do.
yeah.
Yeah, we're,
Well, I would be comfortable with changing the word shall to may. The agenda for the meeting may designate.
I wonder if that leaves it too ambiguous. I would
Okay,
just rather strike the whole sentence. Yeah. I
okay,
think it's more flexible that way.
okay. All right. Anything else that's a concern?
Not a concern, but it's tricky. I think, and this is something that John Carroll used to talk about a lot. All meetings of the body are meetings in the public, but of the public. And that's the kind of art of running the meeting and making sure people are heard, but not having people hijack the meeting.
Okay,
It's not really to change the language, but just something that I think we all need to keep in mind. All meetings of the body are meetings in the public, not of the public. And it's tricky.
is that wording that you're referring to in here?
That's under public participation. And so
Okay.
sentence.
Okay, and it does say in the public, not of the public.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And we have the 3 minutes, which I think is reasonable.
Okay. Anything else? We'll keep the 3-minute rule. Okay, shall we entertain a motion to adopt the rules of procedure
That's amended.
as amended? And I will rework these and distribute them at the next meeting for us to sign.
Did you just move that, Priscilla, or
I will formally move to approve the rules of procedure as amended.
I'll second it?
Okay. Oh, the question, Roger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Unanimous, thank you. Okay. Number 10, other organizational business, if any. Does anyone have any other business that they would like to bring to our attention?
Well, we'll have our first agenda for the 13th, right?
Right, and the deadline is noon on Thursday, is that correct, Brennan?
Correct.
Tomorrow.
Okay,
Well, we better be talking about it.
okay. Well, one thing I can do is look back at our last agenda and see if there was anything that we didn't get to. I think there were a few things. We talked about setting goals.
Yes.
And I think not only do we need to set goals for the town manager, I think we need to set goals for the select board. Because that has
Yeah.
been done in the past. And I think where there may be some overlap, I think we might have some goals for the select board that are different from what we asked the town manager to do. Priscilla, did you have a comment? Okay.
So one thing that's, I think we're a little behind, we do need our goals for ourselves and our town manager, but also we have this evaluation piece. So should we decide at the next meeting, I mean, the goals, yes, but then aren't we like 6 months behind in actually evaluating our town manager according to
Actually,
contract?
no, the contract says he gets evaluated annually. And since the contract was signed September 27, then
Isn't there a check-in? There's a
I
check-in.
don't remember it. No, I think it just says annual.
Okay, so
So I think, if I may, I think the idea that Marcia had was we have to come up with these goals. We've been out straight since the end of September with budgets and everything else. So this is the time, halfway through that 12-month period to come up with meaningful guidelines that I'm going to be evaluated on when we get to the end of my first year.
Yeah, so we'll set the goals and then we'll develop an evaluation document that would feed off of those goals.
Yes,
And we've got 6 months to get it done.
great.
Well,
If we
And it'll go quickly.
well, I mean, it would be fair to Brennan to know the criteria under
This
which
is
we're
true,
going to be
yes.
evaluating him.
Right. I don't think we have 6 months to come up with the goals.
No, we have 6 months to come up with the evaluation perspective.
Well, remember that the contract says it's the goals and objectives for the town, and he's implementing those. That's what he gets evaluated on.
Right, and when I look back at previous select boards, there were goals for the select board and there were goals for the town manager. And I have saved those documents. I will look at them and we can put them in the next packet and decide if there's any value to them, if we want to glean certain parts of it or ignore them completely. It's whatever.
So that's three things really, because we've got to do we've got to follow the contract that he has.
Right.
And then if you want to do the other two things, that's separate and different.
Right, right. So there's goals for the select board overall, there's goals for the town manager, and then eventually we'll need to develop evaluation criteria, a document for conducting that evaluation, but that can be done later. There was something else I was
Down to that topic or?
No, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I would like to revisit the compensation question that we kind of dealt with last time we met at like 10:30 at night, which was the idea of parity. Because I don't feel like, I would like to know more about the compensation study. I'm hearing that there's a draft.
Oh,
So, and that it might, maybe the draft would be developed a little more with input about the union contract.
right.
But I don't think it's going to be very manageable to move forward without some sort of adjustment for the remaining employees.
Right.
I just don't think that's going to be workable. And also the insurance arrangement is much more simple in the union contract, that it's just a percentage. Whereas if you have to stay with the old arrangement, it's a 50% cost sharing arrangement, which is very hard to implement. So if that's, part of what would need to be changed for the non-union employees, I think, that sort of thing. I think the sooner that is readjusted, the better. And I think we were just too tired and perhaps didn't have full information to make that decision last time.
Well, I guess we need to know from Brennan when that compensation study.
There's not going to be a compensation study final draft at this point because we've just completely moved the goalposts of half of our workforce. So I mentioned several months ago that we were working on a draft. We have a draft, which was based on the old compensation study that included the CBA and the non-CBA. I think what we're looking at now, and I hope we can put this on the agenda for the 13th, because I need to work with our consultant and explain to them what it is that the town of Norwich is now moving towards, whether we have a split between the CBA and the non-CBA, whether we're going to continue to have equal parity in the wage scale and everybody is just going to get adjusted up. And then we're going to look at that again as far as where we fit in with the comparable towns that we've compared ourselves to. So, I'm going to have to work with our consultant to adjust the scope that we gave them when we started this in August, I think, which was, we're paying you X amount of dollars. Here's our wage scale. Here are our employees. Go out and find comparable communities and compare us to them, and then come back with recommendations for where we are fitting currently in the market, and also recommendations for what could be done better. They've come up with a different grade and step chart that only has 13 grades in it as opposed to 25. So that's something that we'll look at when we get to the final presentation of that. But as I said, feel like, as Mary stated, there is a timely issue to coming up with how the town of Norwich is going to move forward now that the CBA has been ratified. So right now we have 8 employees treated differently than the other 11 employees that have, again, a past history of 12 years where it's all been on the same chart. So I would very much like to have that conversation.
But of course they're treated differently. They're not in the union. Like I do think we need to discuss I think we need to discuss HR broadly. So I would call for in terms that we're an agenda item about other business, which I assume we're going to talk about future agenda item. I think we do need to talk about what is the scope of sort of the HR questions that we need to look at. I'm interested in compensation as well, but I'm interested in compensation as I hoped it was scoped, which is fringe benefits, insurance, and wages. You don't need the work of the CBA agreement to make these determinations for non-union personnel. I'm very perplexed. So maybe we just need to carve out the status of total compensation for our non-union employees. And then we also need to talk about other HR matters. And then if we can't create a reasonable date of delivery for this board also needs to talk about how to hire some help, because this has been over a year of waiting for personnel policies and other matters. And it's just passing the buck, and I'm exhausted from it.
Thank you.
May I respond?
Yes.
Okay. I think most of the dialogue usually goes through the chair, so I'm going to do it that way. So my feeling is that conflating the creation of 14-year-old personnel policies has been ongoing for maybe 14 years, 12, when did it become obsolete? So that is, as I've said in previous meetings, a topic that we are working on. I know Miranda has gotten a draft at least, and she's continuing to work on that. I told her about what was discussed at the last meeting. She's going to try to, put that higher on her priority list. But we're not going to be able to come back with an updated personnel policies in the time that we need to react to what has happened here with the now kind of divestment of the wage scale. I mean, the reality is this is going to take some time and thought to create a new personnel policy. We have some urgency, in my opinion, on how do we explain to the non-CBA employees, 11 employees that work for the town, that they are now being treated differently as far as their wage compensation than the 8 CBA employees that we have. And whatever that decision is, I think it is a decision at this point of the select board of maintaining a policy we've had or not. I'll let you guys make that decision, but I'm going to have to implement it, and I'm going to have to explain to people what's going on. I can tell you I've had several conversations and emails with disgruntled non-CBA employees about what's happening and why we don't know how this has been put together. Again, I wish as the negotiating team was working on this, we would have connected these two pieces together in our consideration. Because again, we've now ratified at the last meeting on Wednesday a whole separate wage and pay chart here, and people feel unfairly treated if they were not part of that.
Okay.
The wage chart that our negotiating team did was for union employees. The work of the negotiating team and the meetings we had was for union employees. This question of parity, I think we really need a meeting to sort things out. Yes, there was one wage scale, but the other fringe benefits were not always all the same. We're not even sure what was recouped in the past when a CBA agreement in the past was ratified. There's all these open questions, and you continue to put forward these false narratives, which is what is driving the morale question, in my opinion. Enough.
I disagree. Please address the chair if you would.
Mary.
Hi, this is why we need this agenda item, and perhaps we could put our points of view into your memoranda, right? Rather than, we don't need to do this now. This is why we need the agenda item, because they're different points of view, and it's a time element. It does need to be, it's part of retention of staff, I would say.
Okay, my thinking here is that Brennan has proposed a 6.7% increase to bring about parity. And you're talking about some kind of adjustment in the insurance angle. I think one of the pieces of information that we would need before we make that decision is what kind of numbers are we talking about and how does that impact the budget? And I don't think we can make an informed decision without that kind of information.
I can have numbers for you on Wednesday.
Okay. Well, it wouldn't be in the packet. So I'm not sure that doing this on the 13th would work. I think it's something that has to be in the packet because that Convery report is public information and our grade and step program is public information. So if you're talking about making those adjustments, then I think it's something that should be in our packet before it goes to the board. So maybe it's something we can take up on the 27th.
I can try to have something for the packet by tomorrow. I think this is urgent. This needs to be addressed by the board.
But what is the scope of what we are discussing, and what when we say something for the packet? I mean, I think like part of the issue is everyone has a different something. So what is the something that is being put forward?
Well, my suggestion, Roger, was that we need to understand the financial impact of making any changes. So if Brennan is proposing that we look at a 6.7% increase for all non-union employees, what kind of money are we talking about? Are we talking about $10,000, $100,000? And what does this insurance change mean in terms of a financial impact to the town? We have a budget, and I'm not in favor of blowing up the budget just because we finally have an agreement with the union. So I want to know what these numbers are before this board puts this on the agenda and makes it an informed decision. Facts only, evidence. We should be making evidence-based decisions, not emotional decisions.
So what are the facts being put to the table?
Money, the dollars. What kind of dollars are associated with the changes that Brennan would like to make?
So if non-union employees got all the material benefits of a union negotiated outcome, what would that cost the town? Is that what is being put forward?
That was my question, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Priscilla?
Mary's first.
Oh,
I just would support discussing this on the 13th if Brennan can provide the figures, and he has said he can.
okay. Priscilla?
So the timing of it.
This is probably a dumb question / comment, but I thought the purpose of the wage study was to make sure we were paying comparable wages to that other comparable towns were paying, in which case there isn't a direct connection with the union contract at all.
Thank
Because
you.
the connection would be with other towns instead. Am I missing?
Right,
I'm missing a lot
The
here.
study is supposed to tell us if we are competitive with other similar positions in the area.
So I don't know why.
For CBA and non-CBA. So we didn't separate those two categories of employees.
So they can study police and DPW workers around the region and put that in their study. What would stop them?
They've done.
We don't have to incorporate what was agreed to in this union contract. That wasn't part of the study. The study was, how do we compare with other police departments in the area? How do we compare with other DPWs in the area? And trying to impose the CBA into this study now is a complete change order. And I don't think that's.
Well, we've changed the compensation level of half of our workforce. So if they're going to come up with a timely report that we're going to use going forward, we want to have the updated information in that report. Don't you agree?
So the town of Norwich pays X and the town of Hartford pays X. And
There's salary ranges. There are ranges that we
Okay.
want to look at.
Right.
And
And
it's,
that can all be put in the contract. I mean, in the study. Why do we have to?
I'm not following what you're saying, Pam, at all. I don't understand.
I don't think we have to change the direction of the contractor in conducting the study. I think we gave them their marching orders, and I think we should stay with them.
Okay, so you want the old wage chart with all of the old wages before the changes in the CBA employees to be the report that's presented to the board?
No, I want to know what they found when they went out and compared our wages that we're currently paying with what other towns are paying.
Okay.
Did I misunderstand what the study was about?
And I want to be clear, if I may, Pam, that it was a
Yes.
mistake. It was a mistake to include those union wages into that study, because that study is not the mechanism for how union salaries are done. It is a research process through a collective bargaining process. And so, I mean, the lack of preparation or the mistakes that were made on that bid are what we're really dealing with also. So I think we probably should just look at the study and then look at the other fringe benefits that are defined through the personnel policies. So I don't get it.
Okay, thank you. Marcia?
Well, I think point of order, I think at the time that the human resources wage study was being discussed, there was no agreement on the horizon. And so I think that's why the whole thing was included. And technically, I would think, since the negotiating team would have been looking at comparable salaries and in the region, and this separate study was doing the same thing, it'll be interesting to see if there is that much difference.
Yeah, redundant and a waste of money, but that's neither here nor there.
Roger, couldn't help it. Mary?
When we were negotiating a union, of course, it was for particular job descriptions. So
Right.
the wage study might, give us some insight on what our other employees, what, they might earn.
I mean, in my opinion, whether it's a union employee, a CBA employee or a non-CBA employee, the whole purpose of the wage study that we paid a consultant to do was to figure out where we were in the market with competitive, comparable communities in Vermont at this time, 2024 now. So that's what we're going to get out of this study. It has nothing to do with the CBA negotiation that occurred. That was its own separate and unique study. You guys put those numbers together and they were negotiated and bargained. But we certainly wouldn't have just said this is a study for non-CBA employees. I mean, I guess we could have done that, but then we've missed half our workforce there. So if we're going to go out and hire an equipment operator, I think we want to know, are we within that range, that 35% range of the 60% median of comparable communities? I mean, that's the whole purpose when we were given the instructions by the select board to go out and hire a consultant and do a compensation study.
And I think that's correct. And that's what we expect to get back. And it should include equipment operators and police officers and sergeants and whatever. And so bring us the study, let us look at it. Tell us if we go with what the study recommends, what is that going to cost? And if you can do that by tomorrow afternoon, great. We'll put it on the agenda for the 13th.
We're not going to. So what I'm hearing from the direction here, please correct me if I'm misinterpreting this, is we don't want them to look at the new rates. We want them just to present the study that they have ready to go.
Yes.
And that's the study that we're going to pay for, and that's the study we're going to keep. We don't want to say we now have something that's changed, we've shifted, we now have higher rates for all of those CBA employees. We'd like to see now how those look compared to the other communities. I think that's what we would want to know.
That's what we're going to do.
How? How are we going to do that?
If we look at all these other towns and we see what the range is, we can take that and go, oh, yeah, those numbers look a lot like what we have in the CBA. We did a great job. Or, we're paying better, even better for Norwich.
So the CBA doesn't really matter at this point. It's been ratified. It's locked in for 5 years.
And I think you're conflating two separate issues. And I think we just need the study that was contracted for and let the board decide how they wish to move forward with it. And, if people want to get union wages, they should join a union.
Do you really feel that way, Pam? Because that's what will happen here in the town of Norwich. We will have another administrative layer of employees that are being treated differently than collective bargaining agreement employees, and they will go out and either join the NEPBA or they will find another union to represent them. And if you, as the new chair, are telling them that's what they should do, they will hear that clearly. I will hear about this tomorrow morning. I guarantee it.
I think there are different processes for why into how we retain employees, and the CBA agreement and the collective bargaining process is what you do when you're a member of the union. And I think the wage study was our way to understand everything else. And so I think what we're just saying is like, can we begin the work? And we paid for that work. So let's see that work. Let's look at other fringe benefits. One of the issues that Mary mentions is that there's continues to be a cost sharing mechanism in the current insurance plan for non-union personnel. And so one of the things we would want to do is probably we might want to eliminate that cost sharing. We might not want to split the increase 50-50 with our employees in the years ahead. I don't know, but we need these issues laid out, and you can't just demand we make a motion for parity. But so maybe you were always intending to do like a clear-cut presentation, but like some memo from Neil Fulton as the extent of the presentation is just not acceptable to me. That's all. So yeah, Mary's right. Let's put in a memo, but like the town manager's office needs to lead whatever that memo is.
Well, how about this? Would you like to have a presentation of the compensation study, if that could be arranged at your next meeting on the 13th?
Is it going to be in writing?
It's going to be a presentation. It would be the consultant speaking to us. It would be a document that would be presented in a draft form. So yes.
And it can be in the packet.
I can't promise that. I haven't talked to the consultant about this, but if we could do that, again, I feel there's a timely issue here that we really need to address. I don't want to wait until the second meeting in March in 3 weeks. So if this is what the board is saying they need to see in order to make an informed decision about a recommendation I think is important, then I will see if we can get that into the next.
Will we have the associated cost of your 6.7 versus what the consultant is recommending? Will we know the dollar value of the changes?
There's two different things there. I mean, we can calculate 6.7 on the gross wages of those employees that are not in the CBA. That's an easy thing to do. Is that what you're looking for? 6.7%.
I'm asking you what your proposal will cost.
I think the 6.7% was the average that the collective bargaining agreement employees were seeing across the board. Okay, so everybody that is in that negotiating team or in that negotiating bargaining unit is going to see a 6.7 increase on average. Some of them are going to be higher, some of them are going to be lower. That was the average. That's what we use to say, okay, for the other 11 employees of the town, is it fair to continue to couple these together and everyone else would receive that 6.7% increase? And then there is a variable of this true up that goes back till July 1st, 2023, where all the collective bargaining agreement employees are going to get basically a check written out that's going to be a percentage of their increase going back for 8 months.
Right.
So if you're worried about the budget getting blown, we have blown the budget for this year. This is going to have a pretty devastating effect. And we have a budget going forward into fiscal year 25 that did not have any of this information included in it because we didn't know it, we couldn't factor it in. So we're going to basically have repercussions of this going into fiscal year.
And so my question to you is, please tell us what your proposal will cost. Are you proposing we go back to July 1 for all of the non-union employees?
I will create a memo that will clearly explain what I think the best course of action will be.
And then this board can decide if it wants to go with your proposal or if we would prefer to wait and see what the compensation study looks like and how our employees compare with other similar positions throughout the region.
I'm offering, again, I can't promise that this will work with this consultant's schedule. If she's available to do the presentation, again, the draft is sitting there. If we're not going to ask him to do anything more, perfect. That makes it much simpler for me. I'm just going to say, whatever you have, this is what the select board wants to see. And if she can present this and we can break off, 45 minutes to an hour in the next in the next meeting, we can get the presentation done. We'll have completed that. We can check it off our list of things we're working on.
Sounds
And
good to me.
I'd also like to know the associated cost of the consultant study. So your proposal and their proposal, what are the costs?
They're not going to tell you. Their study is just looking, Pam, at where are we now compared to other like communities in Vermont.
Mhm.
Okay, they've created a median of this is what we're paying our median employee with this job description. This is what other towns are paying that same employee. Where do we fall? And then there's a range of 35 or 40% on either side of that.
Right.
So that's where we're going to fall. You know, we're in that range.
And if we're behind, then there's a cost if we're going to get caught up to be competitive.
Again, I think the decision about whether we continue to keep everybody together, it's going to be everybody in the employee pool goes up, you know, basically 2 steps on the grade chart that we have currently.
Right.
That's going to be the impact. We've already done that for 8 people in our employee pool, the CBA employees. We're talking about the other 11. Are they held back and they're making less now than their colleagues in the CBA, or is everybody going to be at the same level? It's not going to be a recommendation from a consultant that we have to do that, because as I said, we're falling into this range.
I'm not asking the consultant to come up with dollars. I'm asking you.
I thought you just asked what the difference was between what the consultant was going to tell you and what I was going to tell you.
Right. And if the consultant says that, you know, we're within a normal range and we're fine, then there's no financial impact. If they say, look, everybody else is paying $25 for this type of position and you're paying 20, then there's a financial impact. And I'd like to know what that is if we were to bring that position up to a competitive range, competitive wage. And I'm also wondering, you keep saying 11 people. Are we talking salaried? Are we talking hourly? Are we talking both?
Both. So what we looked at was there are, I guess it would be 19 employees that are considered full-time employees with benefits right now.
Okay.
It's not the volunteer firefighters. That's not part-time personnel. And we looked at, again, the gross wages of all of those employees. And if we went back and said, okay, 6.7% is what we're calculating as the average. If you went back 8 months and applied that, I have a number already of what that costs the town.
So this study only looked at wages?
We're talking about 2 different things, Roger.
Okay.
We were talking about a compensation study, and I very specifically remember saying, are we also talking benefits?
Yes.
Okay.
Benefits are included.
Okay.
So have we framed this nicely?
No.
I mean, I think an agenda item, again, I'll have to figure out if this timing will work, would be the presentation of a compensation study, and then another agenda item that said, you know, decision of the town of Norwich to you know, adopt the policy of continuing on the same wage scale or not. And I'd like to, if we could, get that decided, as I said, as soon as we can. If we can do it on the 13th, that would be helpful.
All right.
I have another kind of unrelated general question.
Okay, Marcia had her hand up too. Did you want to say something on the same topic, Marcia? Okay, if you don't mind, I'd like to hear from Marcia.
Sure.
First.
Let's choose first.
No, I mean, she has a different topic and you're still talking about the wage study.
All right, I'm just grateful that Brandon is bringing this to our attention, because we've just been through a pretty difficult period, and while he's been here, we've had happy employees, and I thank you, because if we turn a bend and go back where we were, the town people are going to be upset, and I through that day, I mean, everybody has been pretty happy.
Well, I don't think anyone's talking about going backward. I think we just want to see how do we compare with other positions in the region and make sure that we are competitive. And if, you know, if the study says we're not competitive, then we need to make the determination what we'd like to do so that we are competitive, and what will that cost?
And Brendan brought up another.
So just to be clear, we are competitive within a range scale that has been created by the consultants, which is how they do these studies. So it doesn't say, Joe Smith here gets $25 an hour, but Sam Smith that works in Norwich is making $22 an hour. It's not looking at that. It's combining all of these towns with their data and applying it into a range that they, I'm going to let them explain this to you because I'm out of my element trying to explain the mathematics behind it. But you're not going to get anything next Wednesday if they make this presentation that says the town of Norwich should pay our equipment operator an extra $1.50. It's not what they're doing.
I think I misunderstood what we were engaging them to do. I thought we were updating the Condrey study and we would update our grade and step program.
We were never updating the Condrey study. We were asking them to find a market rate and study comparable communities and see where Norwich fit with our job descriptions compared to like job descriptions of other towns in the area. That was in the scope of work that everybody looked at, everybody approved. So that was never, we were never updating a 12-year-old study done by another consulting firm.
So I guess the board needs to decide if they would like to update that chart, that Condrey chart, and continue on with that. And what will those numbers be? And, if that incorporates your percentage increase, then, that's what we would do. But I think we have to look at.
So if I may, so my suggestion was that we continue, since we just got through this long and difficult process, spent a lot of money on legal representation to get here, that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now to blow all that up and say we're going to go to a 13-step wage chart, right? What we have is an existing wage chart with 25 grades. We now have up to V, if we go with what was just ratified, 2 extra steps. So we have a chart going out and out. We can very easily adopt the policy that we're going to keep the parity of the wages. And if we want to talk about the benefits, we can do that as well. Like the insurance makes a lot of sense to switch that over to a simpler format as well for everybody. But that's what I'm suggesting is basically we're going to look at everybody. CBA has already gone up a step and a half to 2 steps, whatever that percentage is going to be. In between the steps is about 2%, right? So that's what we're talking about. I'm suggesting if we want to do this in a very simple, logical way, we just say, okay, that was done. The CBA is completed. We want to continue the policy of paying everybody equally that we've had for 12 years. We're going to say everybody will get a similar size increase in their pay rate. And so chart, it basically will go up, two steps.
But
Roger, we can disagree, but
no, that is not the work that was done. When you look at the wages, so like the DPW workers don't receive, like you look at the markets for DPW workers separately than you work at the markets for the police. And then you set those number 9 on the chart and number 14 differently. This isn't some, we tinker and then we declare parity. Like you look at the markets and the industries for these jobs, which is the expertise I assume a wage study would do. I'm so upset about the insistence and the oversimplification and the denial of expertise that these citizens have paid for. Can we have to move on, as Mary has been trying to get us to do anyway, because we just need to have the presentation and see where we are.
So one more, just to be clear. So what I understand has occurred, and I've had several conversations with the attorney who was involved in the negotiating games because he was the one who's put these charts together. We pulled the police force out of this, and most other employees in the DPW are still on the same chart as the rest of the town non-CBA employees. So we made an adjustment because the police are being treated differently because of the work that they do. The wages and the scale that was put together is very similar to the existing scale of wages for the town. I mean, we have a draft of it that we created with John Clash. He's pulled 2 pieces out of it, which are the police force officers, and everything else is on the same grade chart.
Yes, but the numbers are, but the numbers were not the same. We looked at it. We looked at a situation, right, where they were being 90, like DPW workers were being paid something like 90% of the starting wage of a police officer, and that is the work that we negotiated from. And if you look in other communities, there's some communities that pay 83% of the starting wage of a police officer. And we had like a market study in that way. So I can't imagine that a wage study would take, say, a rec director and like look at the wages of the police, because you wouldn't make these comparisons, because they're different markets, they're different jobs, and they're not in the same collective bargaining agreement. So like there's no logic to what you're like that proposal of looking at the CBA agreement for other jobs is not.
Okay, I'm going to take control of the meeting again and just say, I think we're conducting a discussion about a non-agenda item.
Yeah, we
And
are.
I think we need to pull back and say, let's wait and see what Brennan can pull together for the next agenda. If he's ready, we'll have it on the agenda. If he's not ready, it will wait till the 27th or whenever he is ready. And we'll discuss it at that point in time. Mary, you had another point you wanted to make.
Yeah, it's not really about this particular, but something that, no, it's not. I mean, but it is about how we communicate and frame and make decisions.
Mhm.
It's how are the motions going to be developed? Because I think, Marcia, you put a lot of input into the motions in your tenure, right?
Right.
I know Miranda in the past has done a lot of that. And I think, so there's, it's to what extent you as chair or Miranda, probably mostly, or Brennan, would develop the motions, because they are going to give us the sense of possible, decisions that we want to make and directions that we want to take. So I think that's a very important piece. And
Well, I'm a pretty quick study, and I think I would like to look at that and see if that's
think
something
about
that I'm
it.
comfortable with. If I need help, I'm certainly not too proud to ask for help.
right. And then I don't know, in the past, Miranda used to do this, quite a bit, have quite a bit of input into the motions. I don't know if that's still the case under her new.
It is not, just to
It
be
is not,
clear about the
okay.
expectations in Miranda's capacity.
And that's another topic. I'd like to see her job description, because that's not posted on the website. So if you could get that posted, that would be.
That is, maybe should be unbelievable. Okay, sure, we can do that.
Well, we need to understand what her role is, and I've not seen her job description, so.
No, I don't believe
it's not.
non-posted job positions are on the website. We don't have other job positions.
Yours is out there, your assistant's is out there, but the assistant town manager is not out there.
I'll have to check what we have on the website.
And I don't believe that this board saw the job description when the position was
So
created.
asking Miranda to work with our new chair is going to be difficult. I'm going to put that out there. Marcia has done a wonderful job of taking a lot of this work and doing it, and I hope that will continue, because we have a lot of other things that we do on a very stressful daily basis. I guess I'll leave it at that. I think, Pam, as you said, you're a quick study, so maybe you can pick it up right where Marcia's left off. We don't, we're not going to be able to just start creating motion sheets and agendas because of the change in the chair.
That's good to be clear about that.
Well, I will be as clear as I can.
You
so
just
that
were.
we don't have this come up again.
Good. Well,
Right. But to the topic of the role of the assistant town manager, it'd be good for us to be clear about what role she does play. And so seeing her job description would be great. All right. So number 11, town meeting results. I honestly didn't print that out. Is there any comment that anyone wants to make about the town meeting results? Everything passed. So unless there's anything else, I guess there's no motion needed that I can think of. Next item is public comments for items not on the agenda. I can't see if there's anyone other than Roger on Zoom. So if there are no public comments, our next meeting is the 13th at 6:30. And I will be working on the agenda and get that out to you for your input. So if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you.
We have to vote on it.
And did you second that?
I did
Priscilla?
second it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Roger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Unanimous. Thank you.
The
We are
recording has
adjourned.
stopped.
We are adjourned at 8:17. Okay, I will